do. My name is Eleanor Kuntz. I am the co-founder and CEO of LeafWorks. We are a biotech located in Sonoma County. Our lab is in Sebastopol. And we were told to say something interesting about ourselves. Well, I am a geneticist that is also an herbalist. And so I am really excited to follow Christine, because a lot of the work we do and how we really came to this party was through botanical identification. In the botanical world, one of the main issues we have is knowing that we're getting the plants we think we're getting. And so at LeafWorks, we're really taking this botanical knowledge that we have in-house and our genetics that we have and applying it to issues of identity. And really we're diving into the cannabis and hemp space, really looking at the cannabis and hemp genomes to understand not only what we're getting, what's in the market, but how to improve every single step along the supply chain. So we take genomic data and turn it into actionable information. We are a female-founded company. We're a very lean ship. We're 9 individuals, 6 of which are women. So that's also something that's very exciting in this space. So there's a huge problem in cannabis where nothing is reliable. So this starts all the way from the seed that you're putting into the ground to what's consumer-facing on the shelves. And this is a huge problem because you can't really build brands that can easily scale or have businesses that can make good long-term decisions if you don't have consistency. And so when you're looking at farms that are buying seed, they think they're buying seed that's feminized. And then when they look into that seed, it's actually not feminized seed. It's regular seed. Or you are planting plants and they don't germinate at the same time. They're hyper irregular, or they don't produce consistent chemistry. And so all of this inconsistency really starts at the ground level. And as you move through that supply chain, those issues compound over time. And so if you are buying a clone or a seed from somebody and you have an expectation of what that plant is, and that plant doesn't grow into that particular profile, then you have to constantly adjust to meet the material that you're given. And so we are really stepping in at the ground floor and looking at how can we take these genomic tools and implement them to add value at every point along the supply chain. So Joe earlier said something that I really like, simple solutions to complex problems. And this is what genetics really gives us, is there's some very simple solutions to mitigate some of these very complex issues. So we do genetic testing from seed to sale. So we have markers that can help breeders push populations of plants into the kinds of characteristics they're looking for, whether it's agronomic traits to make it easier to use equipment to harvest your plants, or chemical traits that are going to push your populations of plants into interesting chemistries that your consumers are really looking for. We can help you breed 4 times faster. If you're looking at basic questions and you're disassociated from that supply chain and you're a manufacturer and you're working with one farmer that has a really special plant of a particular cultivar and now you want to expand and you have to add additional farms, we offer tools to verify the materials so that you can know that you are going to interface with another organization and get consistency within your product. And I think the most important thing and the most challenging thing that we do is we're starting to articulate this value to customers with supply chain verification. So it's impossible to expect your consumers to have brand loyalty if every time they purchase a product, it's different. And that's really what's happening in cannabis. And on the consumer side, that's a very easy thing to understand. Like, that is not the way to get someone to come back to your store and buy your product again. But on the ag side, I think there's a lot that needs to be done on that side, that it's all interconnected. And the nice thing about genetics is it's a language. And this language can speak to every point along the supply chain, and it can mitigate risk and increase value. And so I'm really excited to be able to use our scientific background to really interface with an exploding community of creative, innovative thinkers and business entrepreneurs to integrate some really basic tools to elevate what they're doing. LeafWorks is in an interesting position because we have the largest curated database of cultivars out there. We are the only genetic organization that use certified reference materials. So a lot of you in here who do consumer packaged goods and take in botanicals know how important that is. And so the genetics that we are leveraging to answer all of these important questions along the supply chain have deep value, not only to the quality of the information that's given, but to be able to problem solve how to move forward with what's available and really craft good decision making within businesses. We also are really in a cool position because cannabis is not the only plant we deal with. It just happens to be the superstar of the moment. And all of the bioinformatic pipelines that we use are really applicable to anything. Cannabis is in a really interesting place right now because the large players aren't able to enter the space. And so there's a really wonderful moment where we can gain a lot of genetic and intellectual IP and codify a lot of processes that would be outside the scope in a more traditional ag environment. And so that's exceptionally exciting to me. If I were going into something like rice or corn, there's hundreds of labs working on these plants. And so cannabis is this wonderful, rich space where there's just so much to dive into, and there's so many ways to grow. And I'm really excited to speak to any of you who either have interest in the cannabis and hemp space or have needs in your botanical supply chain to increase transparency and consistency in the products you're buying, selling, and growing. Thank you.